I just talked to Johnathan right now. He said we're gonna think on this map.
Hi, I'm Johnathan Rogers from Grinding Gear Games.
Good morning. Ever since the 0.31 patches updates to the tower and mapping system, people have been wrecking their brains around the optimal strategies for map juicing in the current mapping environment that we have right now. So to get some clarity on questions like character rarity, optimal map juicing, and tablets, today I am starting a series in which I will be testing different strategies with varying amounts of character rarity and map juicing strategies in a 50 map vacuum. The first one of these that I did today with the juicing strat that I personally think is the optimal one for anyone with a character rarity of at least 100% is the one I already did a video on a few days ago. So if you want the full breakdown of this strategy, go check out that video that will be linked in the description down below. The TLDR for this strategy is that you want to use Chaotic Monsters Omen on your fully exalted maps. Go for one of the 3 rarity desecrated mods, instill with either 3 Paranoia or 2 Paranoia and 1 Fear, and then use full quantity tablets. In the end, that will make it so that your maps will look like this. We are getting around 200% increased rare monsters, 70% map rarity with Marked for Death, and around 40% quantity like this on every map, even if we don't proc Remnants of Power. Today's test of 50 maps was also done on non-pre-juiced maps, no overrun maps, no cleansed areas, or the use of local knowledge for water or swamp biomes, to have a better baseline of what to expect at the minimum. So please keep that in mind when we look at the results of this test. Also keep in mind that today's test was done on my 380% Rarity Spark Ritualist, which might also have a considerable effect on the outcomes of this. I will do this exact test next in my next stream on a character with 150% rarity to also test if we can draw some conclusions on diminishing returns for character rarity from that. Okay, so with all that out of the way, let's quickly go into all the results of this 5-hour 50 maps test. So, like already mentioned in the intro to this video, we are going to be using the Omen of Chaotic Monsters on our fully exalted maps to get maps with a baseline rare monster multiplier of at least 100% here. The one downside that I will mention to using the Omen of Chaotic Monsters is that sometimes, in my experience, it has been pretty low, but sometimes it will definitely happen that you will get a map by chance that will have, let's say, 20% only rare monsters and then 100% magic monsters. Those maps you can either just reroll again with the Omen of Chaotic Monsters, or you can just use them for something else. But in most cases, you will get maps with a baseline of at least 60 to 70% rare monsters on them. And then when you use the Paranoia, you will get at least 90 to 100, sometimes even more rare monsters on them. For example, this map has 154%. When we then desecrate this map after, we are looking for one of 3 of these desecrated modifiers, and the best one and the most prioritized one should always be Marked for Death, because this adds 40% item rarity to our map. The second one and the second best one, in my opinion, is going to be Abysses have additional pits here. This gives our map 25% item rarity, and the last one is also going to be Abysses lead to an abyssal depth, which is also 25% item rarity. So in the end, our maps will always look a little bit like this. So for example, this is a good example of a map that you will mostly get when you get Marked for Death, with 60% magic monsters, 100% rare monsters, and then item rarity on it. After that, we then use full quant tablets. I will go over the cost for this, of course, as well, when I pull up my sheet where I put on all the statistics for these runs. But for my test, I was mostly using 8% quantity breach tablets with a breach monster density or 2 additional rare monsters, and then another tablet with at least 8% quantity and shrines on the normal irradiated tablet. These go for around 1 null in most cases. I picked a few of those up for 100x, so these tablets are extremely cheap. In my opinion, you do not need to go for 10% tablets. You will massively cut down on your cost in terms of making this strategy work. when you just go for 8% quantity tablets. It worked out perfectly for me. The 10% quantity tablets are just going to be massively more expensive, and you basically only get 6 to 8% more on these. So just use 8% tablets. They are just fine enough. So after 50 runs on this strategy, let me pull up my sheet right here. So this strategy, again, just to go over everything again, I had 380% character rarity, of course. Like I mentioned already, I will do this test now next on a character with 150% rarity, and then I might even do it on a character with 0% rarity, so we can also draw some conclusions on the diminishing returns. I do realize most people do not have a character with this amount of rarity on them, so I do understand how this might be a little bit misleading to someone, or maybe some people think this is not gonna have really the effects that most people will have here. But like I said, I will use this as a baseline to then test it on a character with less rarity. First of all, 150, and then maybe even on a character with even less rarity, so we can see how much the diminishing returns are actually in our characters. So like I said, this is the juicing strategy right here. We did 50 maps. Like I said, this took 5 hours to complete. So we did 10 maps an hour, kinda. I do think you can do this way faster. I basically mainly full cleared. I also had like talks with my chat. We were doing some stuff in stream. You can probably do this way faster than 5 hours. But for me, for these 50 maps, it took 5 hours to complete. And just to reiterate again, before we go over all the numbers here, very important to consider here. This is all done on non-pre-juiced maps, so no maps that have been affected by any towers before the patch, and then we double dipped, so none of those. We also did no Abysses overrun maps, whether it is on the notable or on the Waystone itself, or on the map node itself. We did no Abyssal overrun. We also did no cleansed or corrupted maps to get those bonuses. So no cleansed maps as well. And we also didn't make use of local knowledge at all. So no water or swamp biomes with the 50% increased effect of local knowledge. Very important to consider here for this strategy to know what we get at a minimum here. Let me first go over all the costs for this. So a 8% quant breach tablet goes for 20x per map here. So if we get 2 per map, this goes up to 20x per map. A 8% quant tablet was 10x per map. The overall cost per map here, with the chaotic monsters being at 31x at the time of recording, preserved vertebrae 3x, a paranoia 10x, a fear for 48x. If you don't use fear, you cut down massively on costs. So I also did the cost here for the only paranoia. So you can see here, if we use 2 paranoia and 1 fear, 1 map will cost us 122x, which is basically a fifth of a divine right now, which is, in my opinion, a very low investment strategy here for the results that we've gotten here. So 122x per map, while x to div ratio right now is about 600. So this is not even a fifth of a div right here. So the overall cost for 50 maps, the way I did it here with 2 paranoia and 1 fear, is going to be 10 divines. If you only go for paranoia, which I also think is a very good strategy if you want to cut down on the cost, the overall cost for 50 maps is going to be 6 div. So what did we get from all of these 50 maps? Again, very important to consider here as well. I always and only will consider the valuable currency here. Anything that was basically pennies to the dollar, or anything that was like below the div mark, or any tiered rares or any runes that were not really like more than 200 divs. I only considered stuff that was at least half a div, or at least a div at the most. So in these 50 runs, we got 14 divines, which comes down to 14 divine. Who would have thought? Next one is going to be, we also got 4 perfect exalteds, which comes down to 7 divines. We also got 1 perfect chaos orb, which is 2.5 divine. We got 73 chaos orbs, which comes down to 2.5 divine again. Orb of annulment, we got 13, 5 divines. Omen of light 3 times, 13 divine at the most here. So Omen of light times 3, 13 divine. Omen of Abyssal Echo, we got 5, which comes down to exactly 1 div. We got 2 level 20 skill gems, which is also about 8 div. We have 2 grand projects, which is another div. We have 923 simulacrum splinters, which comes down to 3 div. We also have 1,500 breach splinters, which is about half a div. And then the rest will be, we also got some catalysts, which is about 1 div here. So overall, we made back on our investment in these 5 hours 51 divines. So if we take away the 10 divines we spent here, we made about 41.5 divines in these 50 maps. Just to mention again, no Previous maps, no Abyss Overrun, no Cleanse maps, and no local knowledge. So if you do this on Abyss Overrun maps, or you do this on, like, let's say every 10th map you do, or every 5th map you do is going to be an Overrun Abyss map, your results are always going to be already better. And then if you weave in cleansed maps with the bonuses that they provide, it's always going to be much better. And then you also do local knowledge on swamp and water biomes, and then it's already again going to be much, much better. So very, very important to mention here again that we did not do this on any of these. And also what I should mention, there is a lot else that you get here, not counting all the currency that I've picked up here and I've considered for this. There is so much more loot that we got during these 50 maps that might also be some good amounts of currency here. You can drop, of course, exceptional bases, you can have tiered rares, whatever. This might be also something that is to be considered at the most here. So yeah, that is basically it for this strategy. Like I said, I will keep doing this video series over the next few days, and I will keep doing ways to find find the diminishing returns or find conclusions on diminishing returns, try out different strategies. I do think this is definitely one of the strategies that I think works best on a character with at least 100% rarity. So to prove this, or to even test this even further, next thing I will do is do this strategy on a character that has less character rarity than I had here on this one. So I really hope this has been something that you might want to try out and this works for you. I had a lot of people in my chat today that told me they have not the character rarity that I'm running here on mine. They are mostly running at 50 to 150 rarity or something, and the results for most people, at least in my chat, have been pretty nice. So I really hope the strategy works out for you as well. And I should also, of course, mention again, I don't think I know everything. I think this is just, in my opinion, one of the strategies that I used here that worked best for me. Of course, if you have anything else to consider here, or if you have any other strategies that you want to let me know of that I want to test or whatever, or you want to let me know what I did wrong here or what I did right, let me know down below in the comments. And if you want to tune into my stream and see me doing these challenges, I stream Path of Exile 2 every single day on my Twitch stream, which will also be linked in the description down below. So next test very, very soon. I hope this is something that for a lot of you will get some, that you can get some conclusions on this that will be helpful to you. So yeah, let's conclude this video with that. Thanks so much for watching. See you on the next one. See you on my stream. Yeah, see you. Love you. Bye.